Hey guys, welcome back. Let's get started. Hope you had a great weekend. So, bigger picture wise, right? The market broke out of this downtrend, had a nice rally to the upside. Right before CPI, you can see we just kind of went sideways for like a couple of weeks, right? And then this is where we stopped. The reason you had this massive move upwards is, again, this is the channel, right? Holding a support. You can see we did not break the channel, as a result of which, when news came in lesser than expected inflation, you had a move to the upside again. You had a rejection again. What is this blue line, right? This blue line is the line holding its resistance, right? You had a rejection on Thursday, came back down. The market wanted an extended fifth higher, and you can see it pushed higher to that blue line on Friday, right? And it's almost given back most of its gains already. So still bigger picture wise, right? Nothing has changed. If we go to the MACD, right, you'll be able to see that there's like bearish divergence forming. So this bearish divergence is likely going to play out, right? So here again, although I have a different version here, there's a bunch of versions that I am monitoring, which I want to take you through. As you know, I'm not going to just show you one side of the picture. Number one is this again. If I zoom out, you'll be able to see if I fib the way from the top to the bottom, you can see we have almost pushed right towards the 0.618 fib. We have not hit it, right? The 0.618 fib is at 4317. But if I go to the weekly chart, you'll be able to see that this line right here, right, is weekly support, right? This is weekly support turned resistance, and we're right up against weekly resistance again. So this area, you can see Monday morning, we are opening lower than this level. So that could indicate, right, the chart that I'm showing you right now, that you can see again, channel wise, right, bearish divergence forming, and we are selling off, right? So the next support is at 4187 for the market, right? So I did think at least a 4187 will retrace. So let me go through the two versions, right? Number one, if I assume this is an A wave top, right, we retrace to about, let me fib it, right? Normally B waves are deep and I would expect a retrace down to 618, but I think this one could be shallow, right? We retrace to 4022 or 3950, right? I think about 3900 before it pushes higher for the C wave, right? That's this scenario in monitoring. Alternatively, though, if I was less bearish, I would still, again, this week, right, with OPEX coming up, I would still expect a retrace down to 4130, 4100, right, for this third wave before we push higher for this final like fifth wave, right? And that's where you can see that you would have this B wave top kind of in, right? And that's unlike this, this version where I still see another rally up before this B leg is in, right? Before we start selling off, if we do have a minor retrace, right, into 4130, 4100, right, you can see that this fifth leg up to 4400, right, I would 4450 at the most, right, I would expect the top to be in and we start the major leg to the downside, right? This is what the major leg to the downside looks like. So those are kind of the two versions I am monitoring, right? My gut tells me that this week is gonna be bloody, right? And I would still, at first, I would be watching this trend line to see if it holds, but ultimately, again, in the more bullish version, I mean short-term bullish version, bigger picture, they're both gonna end up kind of the same, right? In the more short-term bullish version, I would again expect a retrace into support before it pushes higher, right? Because there is, as I mentioned, there is massive bearish divergence forming across a lot of the stocks, right? So this can either play out, right, for a move to a much more massive move to the downside, or this divergence could play off into a move into support, right? Either which way, as I've been talking about on Thursday and Friday, I still kind of expect that divergence to play out, right? Whether it is into support and higher, or whether it is into a much deeper retracement, right? That's to be determined. And again, here, as you can see, the bigger picture B, although I have an ABC here, right? Something I want to mention is the top, this entire thing, right? This entire move could have already, been your B wave, right? It's almost up to the 0.618, so it doesn't really need to go much higher, right? This entire move can you B with a C to the downside. So again, even in this B wave top could be in, but there's no way to say, right, till you have much further price action to determine that. So for now, I'm just keeping an ABC, but if we start to break, right, this is the level, if we break 3750, that I would consider that the B wave top to be in. This B can retrace deep, right? So yeah, I'm just monitoring all scenarios for now, right? For now, I think the most obvious move would be into support, right? Let's kind of see where the market goes after it comes into support. Again, the next support level is a 4180. So yeah, that's the first level I am watching to see how we react on the support as we did previously. So with that being said, right, we can look at some of the other indexes like IWM, QQQ. IWM has broken its downtrend, right? And it has pushed up, and if I fib it right from the top to the bottom, you can see that we've actually pushed to the 0.5 fib, right? So this IWM also is against the fib level of resistance, and you can see that again IWM is extended as well, right? If I go to the MACD, you'll be able to see actually IWM does not have bearish divergence on the 4-hour, but on the 2-hour, if you can see that, there's bearish divergence developing. So it's kind of a toss-up, right? I know that IWM will retrace at least like 10-15 points lower based on this two-hour divergence, but since there's no 4-hour divergence, right? Like the SPY, it's IWM could, right? This could lead credence to the fact that probably comes like this and goes to retest one more high to form the divergent bar, right? Before it comes down. So that is something I'm monitoring, right? Again, in the support, I would watch about 188, 187 for IWM to pop down into. So that's number one, and it is against the fib level of resistance. And again, you can see this is a major volume shelf right here for IWM. So I would expect again some sort of resistance that could keep this week bloody. QQQ on the other hand, right? It's same as IWM. It has broken its downtrend, right? And we have popped right into the previous FOMC high, right? This is where the previous FOMC led to a massive downward leg, right? We are up against that resistance level. You can also see it's right above against the 0.5 fib level, right? So again, I would expect some kind of downward projection right here, and QQQ, same as SPY, has bearish divergence on the 4-hour. So at minimum, right, you can expect it to pop into 315 support. And again, the same thing that I have mentioned for the SPY, right? I am monitoring a bullish leg where this is my 1-2. Again, this is my 3, this is my 4, this is my 5. Again, this is some sort of leading diagonal, right? That's why it's not a proper wave structure, although it does support an ABC more, right? A leading diagonal where this is my 1-2, this is my 3, this is my 4, right? With the 5th leg higher. And the more obvious one, again, I am monitoring is an A wave top or the big B wave top with the C leg down, right? So again, these are the 3 versions that I am monitoring, right? If it's the B wave top, we make a new low. If it's the A wave top, we make a higher low, right? Before we pop up. And again, you can see that on QQQ, right? Let me remove all these extras so you don't get confused, right? On QQQ, you can see this is the line of support, right? And if I drag this sideways, you can see the next support is hovering around 315, 313, right? So I am still expecting the bearish divergence to play off to 313, and then let's see what's next as well. So again, same for DIA, you'll be able to see that we did break the previous FOMC high, right? For Dow, if I zoom out like this, you can see we did break the high. We are same as SPY, however, pushing to the 0.618 fib, right? So at most, again, I would kind of expect the market, right, to the Dow stocks, if they wanted to, they can still push up as high as 340, right? And again, there's 2 versions. Either this is an ABC, and as I mentioned, this could be a 1-2, a 3 with the 4 downwards with the 5 higher, right? And the third one is the B wave top is likely in, right, before we come down for the C wave leg. So those are again the 3 versions I am monitoring. So yeah, keep that in mind, right? So again, let's go over some of the more important FANG stocks like Apple. Again, Apple, you can see, right, we're on this wedge, right? If I drew a purple trend line supporting all the things, you can see again, we're right like a rising wedge channel. You can see this is the line acting as support on Apple. So in all areas, you can see that Apple is forming a massive rising wedge. If I pull up the MACD, you can see this is from 27th July, right, all the way to 15th August, 3 weeks of bearish divergence forming on Apple. So at minimum, right, I would still expect Apple to come, right? Even if I was bullish, as I mentioned for the wave 4, I would expect Apple to come retest 159 before it shot up. And if I was more bearish, right, I would expect Apple to come down to about 146. But I would still, right, as you can see in both cases, and how it's at the top of the channel, and how this is a rising wedge with bearish divergence. Again, this does lend to the fact that Apple could be in for a bloody week, right? If you look at Tesla, so Tesla's a little more iffy, given that it already had this leg down, right? So, but as long as Tesla stays below 918, right, I still think Tesla will come down to retest about 800, right? As long as it stays below 920. Otherwise, right, if it starts to break over 920, I think Tesla was kind of lagging the bigger market, and I could see it try to retest 960, 970 before it came back down. But yeah, this is kind of what I see for Tesla. Let's look at Amazon. So Amazon, again, some sort of megaphone pattern at the top of an uptrend. If I go to the weekly chart, you'll be able to see that this level was previously support on Amazon, right? Now it's turning into resistance. Support turned resistance is generally where stocks kind of retrace. Again, you can see that Amazon kind of forms some kind of, it's not a shooting star, but kind of forgot. This is kind of like, at the top of an uptrend, when you see such a strong hammer, you tend to see it being reversed by a bearish reversal candle. I just kind of forgot what it was termed as. But yeah, you can see that Amazon, however, right, Apple and Microsoft, all of them made a new high. Amazon did not, right? So I could see Amazon try to pop over 144 before a hard rejection, right? I could see that possible. Or if it starts to break 140, I could definitely see it coming down lower. But yeah, Amazon, same as the other stocks, right? It's against weekly resistance with the bearish MACD, right? This on the daily. Daily do not have bearish divergence, but on the 4-hour, you can see the divergence forming, right? And on the daily, most of the times when you're looking at divergence on the daily chart, you should just look for a cross down, right? Because most of the time, daily is a much more elongated time frame, so you don't tend to see divergence. But if you see a move down, right, like here, you can see that. So yeah, you can see that it's about to turn down, right? Netflix, again, Netflix on the other hand, you'll be able to see on the 4-hour chart, it's on a massive rising wedge channel, again, made a lower high, bearish divergence forming, right? So that way you can see that, again, Netflix is against supply, right? If it breaks over this, it has a gap to fill. So majority of the time, the MMs, what they do is they try to pop it over supply before they give you a big bearish move, because a lot of retail will assume this entire gap is going to fill up, right? And they load back into calls, as a result of which you tend to see a move like this. So that's the reason. Again, Netflix, bearish divergence, looking for a move down. If you look at Microsoft, for example, again, against weekly resistance, right? You can see a 5-wave move to the upside. If I pull up the MACD, you might be able to see divergence. Yeah, you can see bearish divergence even on Microsoft, right? So most of the FANG stocks, you can see the same. All of them, right? So again, I did both the bear and bull on Microsoft, right? I have a wave 4 down, again, to retest 275, right? And the least bullish version with a 5 higher. And if it's more bearish, I would expect it to bounce off of this, make a lower high before it comes back down. So again, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple, all bearish divergence, right? Google, on the other hand, you can see that, again, this is the sideways channel, right? Holding its resistance, and Google right now is just hovering right over this level, right? So Google, again, looks more bearish than the rest of the market, right? Given that it's just stuck sideways in this channel. So as long as it cannot break over this channel, it's likely going to come back to the bottom of this. So yeah, I went over some of the major FANG stocks, right? The reason I did that is I just wanted to find, credibility or reasons for which, right, we could have that elongated move down. Again, something else to note is that this could try to push once more before it comes back down, right? I did not mention that, but I should mention that just so you're not surprised, right? It is very possible that it tries to push a little more before it comes back down. But yeah, that move is gonna get eradicated pretty quickly. So yeah, that's all I had to say. With that being said, let's look at this week's watch list, right? The first one I have is Boeing. The reason for that, again, if you go to the MACD, you'll be able to see rising, right? Boeing divergence has been for like 3 weeks, right? And you can see this blue channel, right? Is the channel holding as support. You can see we broke down from it, we retested it, and now we're opening slightly weaker. If we look at the weekly chart, you can see that it made almost an inside bar. It did briefly break over the high, but you can see two inside bars, right? That signifies indecision in the market. This channel, this yellow line is nothing but the channel holding a support, which it broke down from, so which could act as resistance. So, and it does, if you go to the 4-hour chart, it has a gap to fill at 159. So that's the reason I have Boeing puts, right? If it gives below 166, it should be able to fill 160, have a slight bounce, and I think come down to like the volume profile at 155. So that's why I have Boeing puts on this week's watch list. The next one I have is Netflix. Again, I mentioned the bearish divergence. You can see the channel, right? Every time it hits the top of this, it does at minimum try to come back to the bottom of this, and it does have a gap to fill at 230. So that's what I have for Netflix, right? A gap fill to 230. For Netflix, let's look at Kroger. So again, I didn't want to only have puts, but this looks interesting, right? It had a massive downtrend. You can see it's been chopping sideways. As long as it holds over 46.7, right? You can see it's broken its downtrend. It should be able to pop to the upside. So that's why I have Kroger calls, right? As long as it holds 47, should be able to pop to the upside. The next one I have is Carvana. Carvana, again, like most growth stocks, had a short covering rally, right? I still think that it's likely going to dissolve this week, right? Before it comes back to the downside. So again, below 50, as soon as it breaks below the supply, to be safer, 48, right? 50, you can front run it. So if it breaks below 48, it can come down to 30 bucks, right? Like come back again. If it's the more bullish version, then it will likely only come back to 40, right? I have 45, 40 as my targets, because in the more bullish version, it will likely come do this, pop like this before it comes, has the major leg down, right? So that's why I have 40 as my target. But if it breaks below 40, right, it's likely going to come retest 30 bucks. So that's why I have Carvana. And the last one is Zoom. So Zoom, on the other hand, you can see it's very tight, right? You can see it's very tightly held both ways on Zoom. And this is the wedge holding as support, right? And this is the line holding as resistance. So you can see it's very tightly held. And there was a $40 million put that came into Zoom. So I would lean towards a breakdown, but again, you have levels, right? If Zoom again breaks out of this channel, you can see if it breaks over 115, right, it would break this downtrend, as a result of which it should be able to run to 130, 140, right? And on the downtrend side, if it breaks below 105, right, you can see that it's broken this rising wedge, and it's likely going to come back down to 90 and 84. So those are your bull and bear levels for Zoom. It's in a very tight consolidation, right? And it's bound to break one way or the other for a massive move. So that's why I have Zoom on it. So thank you so much. Have a great week. Trade safe.